conversation, they figured out that her old friend in retirement couldn't make ends meet, so she was living in the chicken coop in the backyard and had rented out her property to this younger family in order to make ends meet. And so that is part of what inspired our founder to create AARP, or what started as a Retired Teachers Association, because there was a real issue and continues to be with how our country and our society really supports our elders and helps them age with dignity and independence. So that formulates our roots. And so since that day, we've really been focused on independence for older adults, and as people are living longer, that dynamic is changing, of course. And we're right there with you, doing the good work that you're doing to provide direct services and meet the needs of people in local communities. Our focus is really on legislative policy, making sure that the legislature is focused on the needs of our aging communities and individuals. And then we also have the opportunity with such a vast membership, like Verna mentioned, that we can listen to our members and find out what's important to them. And when we survey people and ask them what issues that they care about and are concerned with, identity theft and consumer fraud is always on the top of that list. So we run a program called the Fraud Watch Network, where folks can call us and check out our website to get information about scams and identity theft. But we take all of those reports, and I get to hear about them, and we work with law enforcement and investigators so that we can share this information with people like you, not to scare your pants off, but instead to empower you with information so that you can protect yourselves and you can protect your families and others that might be more vulnerable than you. So I hope you'll take this next presentation as a way that you can be a fraud fighter. You can take this information shared in your community and help everyone else avoid these financial crimes, which, as Verna said, are increasing in the pandemic, and it's pretty scary out there. So as we go forward, I'm going to share my screen and get you the PowerPoint presentation. And I'll encourage you, because I think once I start sharing my screen, I won't be able to see the chat window as well. Let's see. So if anyone, I'll try to pause throughout and just ask if there's any questions, but folks are welcome. If you want to interrupt me whenever you see a question in there, um, you're welcome to do that. I'm very comfortable and happy to take your questions. I hope it'll be somewhat of a conversation. What I have planned for the agenda is that I'll kind of set the context with identity theft and scams and what the criminals are after, and how this environment with the pandemic has really created what I describe as a perfect storm for people to be victimized. But then we'll get to your meat and potatoes, because I know everyone wants to hear about these scams that are so um, fascinating. There's a reason that the number one shows on TV are all these crime dramas, because people are fascinated in the way that these criminals operate, and we'll talk about those scams. Um, and then by the end, we'll definitely make time to talk about how you can protect yourself. And I think through my years running this educational program and talking with thousands of people across the state, I've been able to understand where should we focus as individuals and families and communities to make sure that we don't lose our money to these financial scams that the criminals are so evilly brilliant at inventing and coming up with new ways to separate ourselves from our money. So I'll encourage you one more time, put your questions in chat if there's something that you want to make sure that we cover during our time. And then also on my screen, at least, Jody, I see other people are like in the waiting room and want to join. So uh, I'm sure you're letting them in as we go. So what are we dealing with in the pandemic? And I describe it as a perfect storm for the scammers. It's a lot of the conditions that in normal times the bad guys have had to work so hard to create. We have this fear and uncertainty. We're doing things we've never done before, whether that means quarantining and staying at home, or using new technology like we're doing today with Zoom and other sort of platforms like this, or getting checks from the government for our stimulus and economic impact payments, or trying to navigate the vaccine system and find a vaccine for ourselves. These are all things we've never done before. And because of that, we're unfamiliar, and the scammers insert themselves into that situation. Normally, they have to work really hard to get us fearful and confused, but if you're like me, then you've had plenty of that over the last year. We're also more isolated. And in normal times, the scammers have to work so hard to make sure that their victims don't talk with anyone else. Don't call up Verna and ask if something might be a scam. Don't call your son or your daughter or your neighbor to find out if it's a scam. But when we're more isolated, that is how the scammers use their psychological tricks on us and sort of get us what we describe as under the ether, where we're not thinking straight, we're just reacting and making bad financial decisions. But it can be so powerful just to have a conversation with someone that you trust about money to avoid that scam and financial loss. We're more available. So for years, I've been talking with people who say and believe that seniors are targeted more, and they're coming after seniors because they have memory loss or because they're more trusting. And that plays a factor in how older people are victimized, but it's a myth that it's more that more older people get victimized than younger people. It's about the same. But when older people are victimized, they tend to lose more money. And that's not because every older person is more wealthy, but it is because hopefully by the time you reach older age that you have some savings in the bank and you have access to it. I say if someone tried to come scam me right now, I'd say good luck because I don't have too much money in the bank. But we're more available because if you're like me, sitting at the computer all day, not driving in the car, not sitting face to face with people and having conversations, when my phone rings, I tend to look at it more than I used to. And then we're using this Zoom technology. And what people, maybe you know this, but when it comes to those tech support scams where you get a phone call and they say they're from Microsoft or some Apple technology company and it's just a scammer, and they say they want to fix your computer. One of the platforms they might have you log into, or their victims log into, they might say, go to Zoom and click on this link, and I want you to share your screen. And then when you share your screen, they might instruct you to go to your banking web page and enter your information, and they're copying that information or recording that information as you're entering your password. So this Zoom technology is something the scammers can use to get what they want, whether it's your money or information. And then another part of the perfect storm we're dealing with right now is that there's a lot of cash that we injected into the economy. So for a lot of people, if you got that economic impact payment, it was already spoken for. But I talked with a few people who were trying to figure out what they wanted to do with it, and the scammers are definitely coming after that money because they know people have access to it and it's sitting in their bank account. So this creates that perfect storm that the scammers can be really successful in victimizing people. So here's where I want to talk about what are they after, because it's not just your money and your personal information, but that's a big part of it. So if a scammer can get you to put $10,000 in a shoebox and send it over the mail to them wherever they are, they'll do it. If they can get you to give them your credit card number or go to the store and buy a gift card, they'll do that. But that's not where it starts and ends. There's more to this. When it comes to identity theft, the criminals can get access to your money with some of your personal information, or they can get access to someone else's money. Getting your identity and applying for credit in your name is one way they can do that. But they could also utilize their victim or your identity to victimize other people. You see that on social media when they take over someone's social media account, and pretty soon they're sending out messages to that person's friends, trying to get them to hand over their money or information. But they also want access to your devices. So I think what next here is this is different. So there's access to your device and there's access to your account. So if you're like me, you probably have 100 different online accounts, whether it's at the places that you shop or your bank and your social media accounts and your email account. But if they had your password, they could get access to your account and do a lot of damage in many different ways by accessing those accounts. But getting access to your device is something different. That happens by um, tricking people into downloading or uploading malware onto their devices. Some of that malware can give the scammers remote access to your device. So it may be a distinction without a difference. and the way that you can protect yourself from each of those pitfalls is similar, but it's two different things. And then finally, what I've learned during the pandemic is that we have this rash of scams that what the investigators call money mules. So these victims are not losing their own money, they're not sharing too much personal information, and their devices and accounts are not compromised. But what happens is the scammers trick them into giving help to victimize other people. And a lot of it comes from the work from home scams. So if you see on the telephone poles where you live, they have these phone numbers you're supposed to call if you want to work from home. And the victims end up taking these fake jobs where their job is to process payments through their own bank account. And what they're really doing is taking payments from other scam victims and passing them along to the scammers. And it makes it nearly impossible for law enforcement investigators to trace all those funds when they are passing through multiple unsuspecting victims' accounts. So I'll pause briefly if there's any questions. I hope you have them eventually. So what to look for in general when it comes to the red flags for scams? Because man, during the pandemic, things change so quickly. If you knew about a scam today, you probably don't know about the next one tomorrow, but these are the red flags to look for from the start. If they are trying to capitalize on heightened emotions, whether they're trying to get you excited because you won a prize or are getting some big refund money, and that's exciting, that's a red flag and it's time to slow down. If they're trying to scare you and create that kind of emotion, it's also definitely a red flag. The time pressure, you got to act now or else you're going to miss out. Or if you don't act now, you're going to be in big, big trouble. That's a big red flag. In most situations today, people have time to make their financial decisions. And whether it's salespeople or criminals, they want to put that time pressure on their victims and their customers to make sure that they end up on the better side of the deal. The isolation, I hinted at this to the beginning, almost every type of scam comes with some sort of reason that the victim is not supposed to tell anyone. Don't tell your family, don't tell your neighbors. I have so many horror stories over the years from people who were victimized and they were in fact convinced that their family is trying to steal their money. So you can't tell your family about this prize you're getting or else we're not going to give you the prize. And they've cut ties and really damaged relationships with that type of manipulation when it comes to keeping their victims isolated. The threats, our research at ARP shows that very much more effective are the fearful threats on scam victims than are the promises of prizes and winnings. And most scam victims, when they have been victimized because they thought they were going to win a prize, the emotion that gets them so tunnel vision on this prize is not that they're going to buy a new boat and a new car and a new Cadillac, but that they want to be able to help their family who's struggling, and they wish that they could help the people at church with this money. And the threats and the fear of getting into trouble are more powerful than the prizes. And then I think that the number one red flag is that the scammers want to get paid in these unusual ways. They want to get paid in ways that can't be traced. And so anytime that someone is asking, whether you're buying something over the internet or just dealing with someone over the phone, if they want to get paid with a wire transfer, a gift card, cash only, or a money order, that is a huge red flag. If they, for whatever reason, can't get paid with your debit card, a personal check, your credit card, or an automatic bill pay type system, that's a big red flag. And the reason that the reason for that I'll get into before we're done is that the consumer protections we have in our country cover personal checks, debit and credit card transactions, and automatic bill pay, and they are much weaker or non-existent when it comes to those gift cards and cash and wire transfers and money orders. That's why the scammers want to get paid that way, because it keeps them anonymous so they don't get caught. All right, now we're getting into the scams that we've been taking, the reports that we've been taking through our nationwide call center, but also just the people I deal with every day that I work with at AARP. So when it comes to vaccines, we never saw a big rush or a big spike in people who were being victimized by, emails or online ads or phone calls that said, if you want to get the vaccine, then you got to pay me or you got to give me some personal information. And I think part of that is that people who got victimized in that way may not even know it yet, because they might have talked with someone on the phone and gave them their personal information. And then 2 days later, they got a phone call from their clinic and they said, it's your turn to get the vaccine. And so now they got the vaccine and they don't even realize that they were dealing with the scammer in the first place. So I think that has happened, but we didn't get a ton of reports. What we are getting a ton of reports about are the follow up to the vaccine with these fake surveys. So people are getting text messages and emails and phone calls. They say, we're from Pfizer or Moderna or wherever, and we want you to take the survey about your vaccine experience. And then through that fake survey, they're collecting personal information and even payment information at the end of those. So if you're trying to do a survey about the vaccine, be cautious. Don't just start clicking on things and you're in what they said you. Instead, look up a different way to contact that organization that's trying to survey you, or just ignore the survey. So I want to start with vaccines because that's on everyone's mind, but definitely the number one category of scams that we are getting reports about right now have to do with online retail sales. So it's really tricky when it comes to shopping online. I assume not everyone on the call here buys stuff off the internet, but I do, and some of you do. So there's different ways that this can be, this can happen. One, some of these websites are just fake and you're looking at something and it's the thing you want to buy. Maybe it's a KitchenAid mixer for your kitchen, and but it only costs $99. So you think this is a heck of a deal. I need a new mixer, and you put in your payment information and nothing happens because there never was a mixer for $99 in the first place, and it was just a fake website. I don't know how many investigators it would take to monitor all what's going on the internet, but we don't have enough of them, that's for sure. And if someone wanted to make a fake website, they could do that, and it'd be a long time before anyone caught on to it. Others are legitimate companies, but they are just selling crappy stuff. In fact, down in Buffalo, one of our volunteers lives there, and he he's a volunteer with the Red Cross and responds to house fires and helps people when they have disasters like that. And he said the last house fire he went to just this weekend was someone who bought a cheap electronic device off the internet. And whatever it was, he couldn't even tell what the device was that was plugged into the outlet because it was so burnt up. But it was this cheap device that broke down and started a fire in his house. So you got to be careful. What are these things that we're buying over the internet? And I guarantee you, no one is looking at all these shipments coming to our country from who knows where. And it might be an electronic device that blows up when you plug it into your outlet. So then put another layer of this online retail scams going on. They got fake people, scammers and imposters sending emails out that your delivery has been delayed. And if you want to get your package delivered on time, you got to fill out this form and provide more payment information. Or we got a refund coming for you, so we need you to call this phone number so we can give you your $400 back. So all of these scams are revolving around the online retail sales. And I'm not saying it's terrible or unsafe to shop online. It's just that people have to be cautious about it. I have a hard time describing this next scam with a title other than I need your help, but it often starts with a religious leader, a religious community leader, and someone is being an imposter and impersonating them. So there's a woman who lives in Bloomington down here in the cities, and she was busy one day, but she got an email from her pastor at church. And the email said, Judy, we want you to go down to the drugstore and buy some gift cards because we need to help. We need the donations to help with the food shelf. And so go get these gift cards and then just send me the numbers off the back of the gift card. And because we don't want you to come into the church and drop them off because of the pandemic, so we just want you to send us the numbers by email. Well, that was just a big scam. So, but pretty scary. And the reason they target church leaders, I think, and other religious community leaders, it's obvious like they're trusted people, they're trustworthy people, um, but also their information is available online. So I think that's half the reason that they get impersonated so much, because if your church where you go, you're probably trying to get more members from the community to come join your church. So you got all that information on the website. Who's the pastor? Who's on the welcome wagon? Who do you call if you want to help with the food shelf? All that information is out there. So the scammers just look it up, and then they make up a fake email address that sounds like it's your pastor's name, and then they're sending out these requests for gift cards. And like I said before, once you send that gift card, there's no getting it back. It's untraceable. So watch out for that one. And then I already guess I talked about the work from home scam. And sure, there's some jobs you can do to work from home, but be cautious because a lot of them are scams, and they're more effective now because guess what? A lot of people lost their job, and sure, they'd love to work from home. That'd be fantastic. One woman I met, she was semi-retired but wanted to take a part-time job, and she got this job, and they told her she's going to be a secret shopper and go do fill out customer service surveys at the local stores and retailers and such. Then she got her first job, and it was to do a do a survey at the bank, and they told her she was supposed to go send some wire transfers. So she thought it was a real job, but it was really just a scam. Got one more page of the trending scams we're watching right now, and then we'll talk about how you can protect yourself. Any questions in there right now? All right. I got about 10 more minutes that will go, including questions. So if you're keeping time out there, that's where we stand. So romance scams have been a big increase as well. And don't shut off your ears just yet, because if you're not dating online, it doesn't mean that you're safe. And I'll explain to you why. But we do these nationwide phone calls, and I was talking with this woman in Texas who was just concerned about the pandemic. And the question that she wanted to ask is, how am I supposed to date when I can't go out on any dates and meet people in person? And I said, well, yeah, that's a tough question. But more so, there's a lot of scammers. If you go on any of these dating websites, a lot of the profiles are just fake pictures. And boy, down here in the cities, I met this woman. She got victimized twice. That she met someone online, and they were having this online relationship. They couldn't meet in person because of the pandemic, and then it was finally time they felt like they'd be comfortable meeting in person. But the guy said that he didn't have enough money because of some obscure emergency, so she decided she was going to send him some money so he could get a plane ticket. And sure enough, of course, he was an imposter, and he just took the money and ran. And then she did it again with a different guy, because he was saying that he knows about all these scammers and he's not one of them. And if you think that she's shouldn't have been fooled, trust me, the scammers are so good. They will brainwash their victims and get them wrapped up. And guess, for her, she'd gone through some other loss and crisis, and it made her more vulnerable. And I know it's confusing to think about how people can get victimized like this, but there's a lot of folks doing research right now to understand parts of the physical brain, parts of the cognitive brain that some that deteriorate with age, some that others are blessed with more or less. They just make us vulnerable to these scams. If they didn't work, the scammers wouldn't be doing them. So even if you're not on Match.com or the next website, most of these scams now are coming, romance scams are coming through social media and online game apps. So if you like to play Scrabble or crosswords or play poker online, that's where these scammers are focusing now. So if you make a new friend playing Scrabble online, I met lots of people who say, yeah, this person, we have about the same skill level when it comes to Scrabble. So we play online whenever we get the chance. And then pretty soon that person's asking for money. So they're targeting the game websites instead of the dating websites nowadays. Again, when it comes to the pandemic, a lot of these old scams just have new power. So I got a call the other day from the Social Security office, and it was a scam I've heard 1,000 times, that my Social Security number had been compromised down in Texas, which makes you think about some drug dealers or who knows what going over the Mexican border. And it told me to press a button if I wanted to talk with someone and sort this out so I don't get in trouble for my criminal identity being used in some crime down in Texas. And what was tricky about it, I pressed the button and the lady said, "What's your name and address?" And I said, "Well, why are you asking me that? Because you called me." And then what was tricky, she said, "Well, sir, I work in a different department, so I don't know why you're, press the button on the phone to talk to me. So you're going to have to explain this to me." And so she wouldn't give me any information and just wanted me to start telling her my personal information. So it was a little bit trickier than I thought it would be. I thought she'd start threatening me right away, but instead she was just being unhelpful so that I'd have to help the situation along. Um, the I got a report. It was really interesting from one of our volunteers, and he got an email. It said it was from the cable company, and it said for $99 he could get all the premium channels if he just responded to this solicitation. But they said he to get the deal he had to pay in gift cards. And that was the big red flag, that there's no cable company out there that says if you want to get a deal on your cable that you got to pay in gift cards. So it was just an imposter scam, but one that I hadn't seen before. And then if you don't know already, cable companies are the most complained about legitimate business in the country. So if you have problems with your cable company, you can call, I think it's the Attorney General's office, because it's not regulated by the Department of Commerce, I believe. So anyway, couldn't help but say that. And then finally on my list of common scams right now is unemployment. So it's kind of old news now. And if anyone stole your identity to claim unemployment in the pandemic, when there was a big rush, when all these people lost their jobs and the criminals stole people's identity or used the stolen identity they already have to go file for unemployment. And then in tax season now, people are getting their tax forms, finding out that their identity was used to file for unemployment. So if that happened to you, you would probably know by now. But the IRS had set up a special department to handle all these identity theft problems that people were having. And basically, if that happened to you, what you got to do is get a corrected form, like call the IRS and get a corrected form that shows it wasn't you who got the unemployment payments. And they were being pretty expedient about that. And then, if you can believe it, the scammers are even trying to sell fake puppies on the internet. So if you're like me and a lot of people I know, a lot of people staying home, they got new pets and they're looking online for the kind of doggy they want. Well, the scammers are posting pictures of fake dogs, and then they create this urgency. If you saw the dog that you wanted and you contact the seller, they say, "Well, if you really want this dog, it's the last one I have left, the last one of the litter, and someone else is interested, but they haven't paid yet. So if you can send me $500 on a gift card or a wire transfer right now, then I'll make sure you get it instead of the next guy." And the dog doesn't even exist and it's a fake picture. So you just got to be cautious. And I think the advice is, don't be buying a dog that you've never seen before, or send money before you check out all the sources and whatnot. So it's time to shift gears into how we can protect yourself. And what you see on the screen here, it equals everything that I say people ought to focus on, and it will completely eliminate your liability for financial loss due to scams. Knowing about the scams and understanding them and talking about them with your friends, that reduces your risk. This is where you make sure that you don't lose any money. And this is where I encourage people to focus. So, one, you monitor all your financial accounts. That includes your bank, your credit, your investment accounts. And if you notice anything suspicious or something you just don't recognize, you report it to your financial institution as soon as you see it. And then it becomes a shared problem with the bank and your financial institution, not just your problem. So don't ignore it. And I'll come back and explain it in more detail. Number two, you check credit report regularly. And the reason for this is that if your identity was stolen, someone could open up an account in your name and you'd never see a bill for that credit card because they would change your address with the creditor. So that's you check your credit to make sure your identity is not being used to open up accounts in your name elsewhere. And number three, I've said it a few times, you stay within the banking system and pay with protected forms of payment as often as you can. And anytime you're asked to pay in a different way, you be very cautious. So always pay with debit card, credit card, personal check, and automatic bill pay where you have consumer protections, and avoid paying with cash, avoid paying with wire transfer, avoid paying with gift cards and money orders. That you don't have consumer protections. And if you go down the rabbit hole with a scammer and you're paying in this way, no one else is looking over your shoulder. But with credit cards, debit cards, personal checks, and automatic bill pay, now the bank and now the credit card company, they have some liability. So all the billions of dollars they've invested into stopping all this identity theft, and you see it on TV commercials, they say you ought to get our credit card because we're looking out for your identity theft. That's all fine, but it's not so much about you and me, it's more about them investing billions of dollars into making sure that they're not losing money when their clients and customers have their identity stolen. So I'll pause there. I can't explain these three things in more detail, but I'll do a time check and also if folks have any questions.
There's one question in the chat, Jay,
Okay.
and it is, do you advise to lock down your credit?
Yeah, great question. So it was back probably 2018 now, I think, that when Equifax had its big security breach and millions of people had their personal information stolen. Well, our federal government actually did something about it. And what they did was say that these credit reporting agencies can no longer charge you money to freeze your credit. So you have the right to contact your credit reporting bureaus and enact what's called a credit freeze. I should take a step back. It's these credit, why are they collecting information about us in the first place? Well, it's because they're authorized by federal law to collect and trade and sell personal information about consumers because we in our country believe it's necessary for the financial industry and for our economy to be checking on the credit worthiness of people who want to borrow money. So they're legally authorized to do this, but we also have the consumer protections now in place that says you can stop them from doing that. So if someone stole your identity, but you had a credit freeze on, they're not going to be able to open up a new line of credit in your name. And the website is annualcreditreport.com. So don't just go doing an internet search trying to find a free credit report, because then there's all these imposters that are trying to steal your information. So it is annualcreditreport.com. I'll put it in the chat when I get back up there.
I have two more questions. One is, I had
Sure.
my identity stolen. I'm still getting notices from collection. Can they take my social security? And the other one is, do you feel the scams have changed a bit from preying on older adults based on their age, really focusing on everyone's vulnerability?
Yeah. So with the first question, if you've had that identity theft, I recommend going to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I know it's a mouthful, the CFPB.gov, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they have this great checklist that people who've been victimized can follow to make sure they're all covered. I don't know about collections and your Social Security payments, but if you're getting those notices, you want to get it taken care of. And also, don't just respond to the notices and do what they tell you. So I'd say start with your bank and see what kind of advice they have for you. You know, my next advice would be talk to a lawyer, but I wouldn't want to go talk to a lawyer. I don't have money for that. So I'd probably start with my bank and see what advice they have for you. And then with the second one, yeah, I do think it's changed. They're still, like I said at the beginning, I don't think they ever were really targeting older people. I think that it was just older people answering the phone. So the scammers kind of adjusted their tricks to make up the grandparent scam and the type of story that would work on the people who are answering the phone. Nowadays, they're more sophisticated with the online shopping and the imposters on social media. So I think they just have found new ways to victimize younger people just the same as victimizing older people. Well, folks, should we move along?
Great information. Thank you so much. I know that for me
Thanks.
personally, I had someone from Amazon theoretically call and say, hey,
Mhm.
did you buy a phone for, and then of course they wanted access. When they got to the point where they wanted access to my bank account, I'm like, I don't think so. And they were persistent in calling back and saying, you can't hang up on us. Oh yeah, I can. it was
Yeah.
intriguing.
Yeah, that is pretty sophisticated the way they're doing that, because they say they want to give you a refund or someone charged this $1,000 iPhone on your account. But then, like you say, they want to look at your bank account so they can do this customer service for you and put the money back in there. And then it gets tricky from there. So that's got to watch out for that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Verna, would you like to introduce our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Jody Freehalls London, and she is going to share information about the No Guilt Cookie. I'm wondering if this is a chocolate chip cookie, an Oreo, an
You
oatmeal
hang on just a minute and you'll find out.
Okay, I'm really wondering, because you're in Eagle Bend, right by that Treasure Treats Bakery group. And I'm thinking maybe you've been sneaking on cookies here. Jody is the founder and executive director of Wellness in the Woods, Minnesota's mental health consumer-run organization. And we provide advocacy to individuals with mental health issues. We want to be there to support people, and Jody leads the way in that statewide. So Jody, take it away.
Well, give me just a second here. I am finding my my PowerPoint, which
While you're doing that, I want to offer a special thank you to Todd Wadena Electric, Operation Roundup, for providing us with $1,000 grant to develop and market this conference. Operation Roundup is provided through all the consumers who round up their bill when they pay their electric bill. And they provide many services in our regional geographic area. Once again, thank you to REA Operation Roundup. Did you find your cookies yet?
I'm getting there. Here we go. Yep, I found my cookies. Which is actually a real picture of cookies. So and they happen to be chocolate chip. So let me make sure that I have this in a place that is all right, there we go. So you maybe wonder what a guilt-free cookie is. And for those of you who know me and my family, I have 3 sisters, and I have, let me see, I'm getting something in the chat. Are you able to see that okay? Am I getting a thumbs up that you can see it?
Yes, we can see it, Jody.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So if you look at my mom and my 3 sisters and I from the back, none of us are like a size 10. And I'm not a size 10 probably since I was in 6th grade. So I do like cookies. And as you'll notice, this is chocolate chip. So thank you for bringing that forward. And I know that Verna and I have probably shared a chocolate chip cookie a time or two. And my mom was a farm wife who was a great cook and was also a great chocolate chip cookie maker. But it appears that as we get older, certainly as I got older, there's a lot of things that guide us into what's appropriate, what we should do, what we should not do. And so I'm going to really just encourage you today to think outside the box. And let me tell you, for a German Lutheran, central Minnesota rural person, I haven't, when I moved to Eagle Bend 3 years ago, I haven't moved the furniture since then. So change and thinking outside the box is not always a good thing for me. But let's try a new kind of cookie. And I know you like chocolate chip, Verna, and ginger snaps, but have any of you tried baklava? Now, I made baklava once for my family. I have 4 children, all grown up now with kids of their own. And it took a lot of time and energy and money, and they hated it because it wasn't chocolate chip. But Irma Bombeck tells us, seize the moment. Remember all those women on the Titanic who waved off the dessert cart? Oh, you know, I can't have that dessert. And they didn't have it tomorrow. Yes, I know you've always done it that way. And I know that you hate change because I hate change. As a matter of fact, when my grandkids came a couple of weeks ago and they were grabbing blankets and things to wrap around them as they were watching TV, they put the blankets back, different blankets on different chairs. Now, I'm not exactly obsessive with cleaning, which you'll find out fairly quickly, but it's like the wrong blankets are on the wrong chairs. But I did learn to actually like avocados at the age of 60. And we never had avocados growing up. I mean, that was like far and beyond something that was special and that was not in our budget for a dairy farmer's family. But I also really have come to this place in my life where I've realized that worrying is not going to change anything about my future. Irma Bombeck tells us that worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it never gets you anywhere. So I'm not suggesting that you live on McDonald's because healthy eating is important. Exercise is important. Getting enough sleep is important. Pain relief is important. So this is not about throwing your caution to the wind at all. It's just about probably thinking about things maybe a little bit different than you have. So I'm thinking about asking you to take a little risk with moderation or maybe not with moderation. As a matter of fact, this little guy is saying to go for it. And I borrowed that particular picture from my friend Dan Hegstad, who has a multitude of cute little things that he posts on his social media. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what go for it looks like. I can't do this. See that woman? She's on a zip line. And when my husband and I got married, Tom is my second husband. We were married almost 11 years ago. And for our honeymoon, we went to Costa Rica. And it was a wonderful time. Our driver for our van for our tour was called the Flying Cat or Flying Gato. And we found out that the reason that he had that nickname is because he was driving really fast one day and just went like over the median and there was a severe car accident. So that added a little bit of excitement to our tour and our trip and what that might look like. But one day our guide said, we're going to take a canopy tour. Now, the group that we were with were actually a group of biology students from a college. And one of the college professors had created this group. So it was a tour group to go to Costa Rica. And it was a green tour. So we got to help plant some trees at a school. We got to see those giant spiders and bugs who were all part of the ecology of Costa Rica. And so when our guide said one morning, we're going to take a canopy tour, I'm like, cool. That means we're going to actually like go above the jungle and see all the things that we can see. What I did not know is that it was a zip line. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, I am not a size 12 or a size 10. I'm a big girl, And the idea of getting myself zapped into one of these leather belts and hanging on to a cable and going across empty spaces was not exactly my idea of a good time. But everybody else was doing it. You know that old saying about, so if everybody else jumps off a cliff, are you going to do that too? My mom used to say that all the time. And there was probably some wisdom in that. But the rest of the group was going to go on this trip and was going to go sliding across on this cable. Now you'll notice that, and this isn't me, but in this picture, you'll notice that number one, we had a hard hat on, which I don't know how much that's going to do you if you fall 900 feet. And you got to wear a glove on one hand and hold on to the top of the cable so that it doesn't spin you around and around and around, which would have been even worse because I'm pretty sure I would have thrown up. But I was spinning around and going over this wide gap of space. But the first particular section was only about 50 feet high and maybe 50 feet long. And I thought, well, this isn't so bad. I can do this. I can make this happen. And in reality, the first one was okay. But what I didn't know, and what this other grandma next to me didn't know, is that we had to climb an entire mountain to go on every single section of this zip line to get back to the beginning. So we're breathing hard, everything from asthma to not being in good shape to, and then there's a whole bunch of these young college students who are like sprinting up the mountain. But we made it, and we had to go on 12 or 8 more of these. I don't remember exactly, but we got to the final one that was going to bring us back to the place where we started. It was 900 feet from the bottom of this canyon to the top of the zip line, 900 feet, and it was a 1/4 mile long. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. But there was no going back down. The only way to get back to where we started was to go on this zip line. So there were 2 options. Number one, you could have a special leather harness for you that would allow you to fly down like Superman with your arms out and hooked on the back. And I'm like, absolutely no way. If I'm going to die, I don't want to watch it coming up to meet me. The other way was that you could go with a partner. And so Tom, my husband, and I decided to do that. So we both got our leather harnesses on. We got hooked on. I was in front. His arms were wrapped around me. And they said, be sure that you go fast enough, because if you slow yourself down too much with your hand, you're going to end up stuck in the middle over this 900-foot drop. And then we're going to have to come out and save you. So be sure you go fast enough. I don't know that I held my eyes open for much of that, but I was praying the whole way. And I was pretty sure there was not OSHA in Costa Rica, because every time you'd go over one of those cable connections, it'd go, I don't know, that's probably not the really good sound effects, but you get the idea. We made it to the other end. There was heavy breathing, a lot of sighing. I know people took pictures, but I think I deleted them. And I was so overwhelmed. I had so much adrenaline going on that I didn't even buy the t-shirt that said, I did this, but I did do it. And I will tell you very much that I will not do it again. So that's not something that I have planned in my life, but I accomplished it and I did it. So Irma Bombeck talks about, she said somebody asked her the other day what she would do if she had life to live over. And she's like, no, I wouldn't do anything different. But then I thought about it and she changed my mind. And I love Irma Bombeck. She's not only humorous, but she really speaks a lot of truth in her humor. And she tells us this: if I had my life to live over again, I would have waxed less and listened more. Instead of wishing away 9 months of pregnancy and complaining about the shadow over my feet, I'd have cherished every minute of it and realized that the wonderment growing inside of me was to be my only chance in life to assist God in a miracle. I would never have insisted the car windows be rolled up on a summer day because my hair had just been teased and sprayed. I would have invited friends over to dinner, even if the carpet was stained and the sofa was faded. I would have eaten popcorn in the good living room, and I would have worried less about the dirt when you lit the fireplace. I would have taken the time to listen to my grandfather ramble about his youth. I would have burnt the pink candle that was sculpted like a rose before it melted while being stored. I would have sat cross-legged on the lawn with my children and never worried about grass stains. I would have cried and laughed less while watching TV and more while watching real life. I would have shared more of the responsibility carried by my husband, which I took for granted, and I would have eaten less cottage cheese and more ice cream. I would have gone to bed when I was sick instead of pretending the earth would go into a holding pattern if I weren't there for a day. And I would have never bought anything just because it was practical, wouldn't show soil, or was guaranteed to last a lifetime. And when my child kissed me impetuously, I would never have said, later, go get washed up for dinner. There would have been more I love yous, more I'm sorries, more I'm listenings, but mostly given another shot at life, I would seize every minute of it, look at it and really see it, try it on, live it, exhaust it, and never give that minute back until there was nothing left of it. I want to remind you that you don't have to earn your worth. And I'm going to be a little vulnerable with you. Brene Brown is also one of my favorite authors and teachers. And there's a misconception about being vulnerable. We know that you have to trust someone in order to be vulnerable with them, but neither comes before the other. Vulnerability and trust happen in a constant exchange of small moments. And when someone reaches out to you and you choose to engage with and respond to their vulnerability instead of ignoring it, you will earn their trust and the right to be vulnerable with them in turn. In 2005, there were some pretty important things that were happening in my life. I had done a sting operation in the job that I was working in, which is extremely stressful. I was also struggling with a marriage that was failing. The faith community that I grew up in had proven to be dishonest, and there was some betrayal going on there. And what happened is I had previously been working as a support person in the mental health field, and now I was going through my own mental health challenge. Talk about a change in perception. So what was I going to do with this? Well, number one, I had to face the fear and do it anyway. And you might be thinking, oh no, she's going to ask me to participate. Well, you already have, because you're here today. And you've already participated in life, and you've had your own sets of challenges. Teddy Roosevelt tells us it is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. That's each of you. That's all of you. You have done it. You have done things that are hard and you've made it through. The person whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who at the very worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So think about what you have accomplished. Think about the conference even today and all the planning that went into that. And here we are doing it. It's been a rough year. COVID has brought us many opportunities and many challenges. But what are we going to do with that? Well, we know that oftentimes difficult roads can lead to beautiful destinations. For those of us in the mental health world, we often use the kind of the theme and the topic that crisis can lead to opportunities. For me, starting Wellness in the Woods came out of the place because I was terminated from a position from an organization that was failing. It's really important that we find people to support us through good times and bad times, and not just people that we're going to grumble with about the rain or the lack of rain or the, I lived up by Nimrod for a while, and I could always go to the J&J bar and find somebody to grumble with, especially if you buy a round. Everybody's willing to throw something that they can grumble with, but think about real support people, those people that you can be vulnerable with and be safe with. And that takes some level of change and investigation. So now during COVID, we found that we can have virtual friends, people with like interests. And for me, certainly my perception around mental health is that I connect with other people who have mental health challenges. But there are lots of virtual groups. When I got gout last year, I found a group of people who had gout, and we exchanged, does this work for you? What should I eat? What helps me to feel better? A year ago, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy. So I went right online and found a Bell's palsy group. How long does this last? How long has it lasted for you? Did you have this much pain? You can even do yoga online. The Juniper Senior Programs has lots and lots of online classes. Todd County Council on Aging, they're having their meetings via Zoom. So I can just sit here and drink coffee. And hopefully this summer, we're going to have some picnics. I see that our mask mandates are being lifted, and we hope that that will make for a much more interesting summer. And finding out how to Zoom. I didn't even know how to Zoom or how to connect a year ago. And you did it today so that I know you can do it again. I also want to tell you a little bit about some of the programs that we do at Wellness in the Woods. Every single day from 10 to 4, there is somebody available by Zoom. You can either click it or call it by going to our website. There's activities. You can win prizes. I mean, you can play, I didn't know you could play virtual bingo, but you can play virtual bingo. We have special speakers. We learn about new cultures. So we have speakers from the Native American culture, the Spanish speaking culture, some of our immigrant cultures, and every other Friday we have Senior Fridays. So there's special topics just specifically for seniors. A couple weeks ago, my husband and I got to join in, and it was Storytelling Day. And I have to brag a little bit about my husband because he's a wonderful storyteller. And sometimes when I'm having trouble sleeping, I just ask him to tell me a story. And I've heard probably most of them because I've known him for 30 years, but he's a wonderful storyteller, and I absolutely enjoy that. So we would love to have you join us on the Virtual Peer Support Network. We're there every single day. And if you go to our website, you can actually see what's happening on that particular day. That's kind of what our new media outreach has looked like, but just go to the website, click on MNWITW.org, and you'll be able to find it and what we're doing every day. Then if you need someone to talk to at night, if you have something you want to celebrate or something that's on your heart, we also have staff who are available every single night from 5 at night till 9 in the morning. So all night long, you're not able to sleep. You don't want to wake up Verna or anybody else who loves you. You can give us a call, and we have trained staff who are there to talk to you. It's an 800 number, and we have several staff on during several shifts. And again, you can find that information at our website. So I just wanted to let you know that there are people who care about you. And if you need somebody to chat with, here's some options for you. So how can you leave a legacy? You know, it's not about the cookies that you eat, but it might be about the cookies that you bake and give away. Maya Angelou tells us, I've learned that people will forget what you said and forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So I have a neighbor just down the street, and when we moved here 3 years ago, he has several trees that say, do not trespass, no trespassing. I mean, there must have been a dozen of them. And for some reason, he friended me on social media. And I thought, well, you know, he is a neighbor. What do I have to lose? And pretty soon we had started having discussions, and I knew that he didn't have a vehicle. So when there was the free food giveaway, I would pick up a bunch of that free food and bring it over to his house. Or I made a banana bread, and why not make two? And I'll bring one over to the neighbor. Or if I made an extra big batch of cookies or an extra big batch of soup to share with him. And now I'm not saying that I'm responsible for this, but there are a lot less do not trespass signs on his trees. Besides my mom, who is my absolute heroine in life, Irma Bombeck tells us that cleanliness is not next to godliness. It isn't even in the same neighborhood. No one has ever gotten a religious experience out of removing burned on cheese from the grill of the toaster oven. If you come to my house, which you are always welcome, you're going to find dust. My grandkids are going to be here. There's usually toys all over. They drag all the blankets from all the couches and all the chairs, and they drag them into the living room in front of the TV. Even though they really like to play electronic games, we forced them to watch a family movie, E.T., which they had never seen. And they're like, oh, this is really pretty good. So there you have it. Let's do something wild and crazy. Let's go swimming. Let's do something outside of the box of what we're comfortable with. And you know what? You don't have to go skinny dipping to do that, but I would certainly give you not only the opportunity, but I would encourage you to do something that is a little bit off the beaten path. So I'm open for questions. If anyone has any questions from me about the work that we do or my experiences, you can share, you can ask me anything except for how much I weigh. Okay, Verna, I guess we are ready to move on to our next speaker.
Today, I'd like to welcome Nicole Pomeranke, and she is going to be sharing information on living healthy. And that will be sponsored by the Maslowski Wellness Center in Wadena. And I'm sure she's going to fill you in about more information about the center. Thanks, Nicole.
Can everybody hear me then?
Nicole, are you Nicole's iPad? Is that you?
I am, yes.
All right, so you are now a co-host.
I was gonna say, can everybody hear me? I just finally unmuted, so. So today, and to kind of even say about what Jay was talking about is even in my personal training world, there are a lot of people that come around with scams. You know, they want to have you personal train like 10 people, and then they want to pay ahead, and then they want you to refund that money. So even in any aspect, there's scammers out there for everything. So, and I know you guys don't know, you know, what I was going to talk about, but it really kind of banks on even what you were talking about, Jody, and living healthy. So again, my name is Nicole. I am with Make Fitness Fun for You. That is my personal training company. And I also work here. So I'm here at the Maslowski today. And I have my speech right next to me here. So, and to be honest, this is the first time I have ever done a Zoom thing. I have been fortunate through all of the COVID to be able to keep supporting all of my clients. I also opened up 2 personal training studios, private studios. I have one here in Wadena and I have one in Miltona. So I've been very fortunate to still keep supporting all of my clients through this whole uncertain time. So it's been great. So I'm here today to chat with you about living healthy. But first off, we should probably establish, like, what does that mean to live healthy? It's pretty broad. So living healthy is defined as a complete state of mental, physical, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease. This is a whole person, whole life view of health, involving 6 domains that are entwined and strongly connected, not separate. So these 6 domains consist of relational, existential, mental, physical, emotional, and environmental. It's like, whew, that's a lot. Then there's a lot that goes into it. So let's break it down a little bit more about what deep health means and how we can improve on each of those domains. Deep health doesn't come from a pill or an operation. It comes from a balanced diet of fresh, whole foods. It comes from enough exercise combined with genuine rest, from clean air to clean water, from real human connection and sincere emotional expression. It comes from living with a purpose and joy, using your life as an expression of just that. Wow, to me, that sounds amazing. So what can we do to make sure that we are living our best lives within those 6 domains? And remember, they're not separate. They're not separate little categories. They are all connected one way or another. So improving on one will actually improve on all of the others. So let's first discuss environmental. Does what's around you support your health and well-being? Being and feeling safe, secure, and supported by your environment enables you to make better choices for your health. Having access to resources such as healthcare, healthy food is also a part of environmental health. You can't control some elements of your environment, but what you can do is focus on the things that you can control whenever possible. A few of those things that you can control is like what type of neighborhood is around you, what stores are in your area, where you can seek medical care, what places you attend, like the Maslowski, and what resources you have, are just to name a few. Next, let's discuss physical. So this is in my domain here. So do you feel healthy, energized, and thriving, and are functioning well? There are 100 different ways to shift this area towards something better, but 3 important ones that I feel are like on the top of the list are: number 1, making sure you're eating delicious, healthy foods. And no, this doesn't mean that just eat salads. It means ditching the processed foods for better unprocessed whole foods, switching a sweet tooth for candy to fruits instead, or switching chips and dip for carrots, celery, or sugar snap peas and a hummus dip. Every day, our bodies need good lean proteins, complex carbs, nutritious vegetables, and healthy fats. Per our dietary guidelines, which they just updated last year, an average adult consuming 2,000 calories a day needs about 5.5 ounces of protein, 2.5 cups of veggies, 2 cups of fruits, 6 ounces of grains, 5 to 7 teaspoons of oils, and 3 ounces of dairy in a day. So how many servings are you getting in a day? Number 2 is increasing your physical activity. You won't need to get up and run a couple miles unless you really want to, but to actually get up and get out doing the activities you love. Make fitness fun for you. From walking to bike riding, gardening, hiking, camping, fishing, building, etc., etc. The list is endless. You should try for 30 minutes a day of doing activities that can get and keep you moving that whole time. And then a strength-based routine using body weight, dumbbells, or an activity where you are lifting and carrying weighted objects at least twice a week. Guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate to intense physical activity per week. Both are very important and will definitely improve on all the other aspects of your deep health. And number 3 is improving your water intake. The average person, regardless of age, should be consuming roughly 64 ounces of water a day. That sounds like a lot, but if you easily sweat or you take medication where good hydration is important, you may need even more than that. And a good level of output means it is helping to keep your body flushed and hydrated. So I always say, I always am running to the bathroom. So next up is mental. Do you feel alert, focused, competent, and thoughtful? This area will help you evaluate your ability to problem solve, focus, prioritize, and put things in perspective. A few ways to improve in this area can be to break out your creative side. You can build and paint and sew, craft something you've wanted to do. It could be something simple or something that takes a while. Or you could try your hand at card games. These are all kind of lost things that we take for granted. Nobody plays them anymore. Card games, board games, word puzzles, just even a puzzle, or other ways to challenge your mind. Another way could be to get yourself more organized. This could be within your home, your office, or even just your calendar. Making and prioritizing clear plans for your day, week, month can help you feel focused. Our fourth is emotional. It says, do you feel a full range of emotions, can express them appropriately, but you're mostly calm, hopeful, and positive? This can be difficult to talk about, but it matters. How you feel emotionally on a day-to-day basis can impact everything from your nutrition habits to your relationships with others. One huge way to improve in this area involves managing too much stress, which is everybody. A good healthy level is okay, but everybody tends to push it over the top here and there. So you should know your signs of chronic stress and then find a de-stressing activity that easily fits into your lifestyle. De-stressing is purposely chasing relaxation. I absolutely love the way it says that. And it can involve deep breathing, coloring, drawing, calling a friend, walking barefoot in the grass, sitting outdoors in the sun, which has been beautiful the last couple days, or dancing while listening to music. And so no matter what or how you choose to de-stress, keeping your stress at a healthy, manageable level is super important. So fifth is existential. Do you feel a sense of meaning and purpose? Existential health refers to having a deeper why, or feeling like our actions have meaning. When we have a strong sense of ourselves and what we're here to do, we feel worthwhile. Valuing ourselves then affects how we treat our minds, our bodies, and the people around us. This could be that you find meaning in your role as a parent, or even that you're making the world a better place through the work that you do. One way to improve in this area could be to find a volunteering opportunity and focus on something that you're passionate about. There are so many places that would love to have volunteer help, such as Meals on Wheels, this local senior club, schools, libraries, the humane societies helping with animals. The important thing is that you find meaning in something. Let's do it. So, and lastly is relational. Do you feel connected and authentic with others? Do you feel supported and that you belong? Social support is incredibly important to success. Think for a moment of all the people you know in your life. Which ones do you like to hang out with, rely on in case of an emergency, or that you like to do activities with? These people are important in your life, and it's good to notice and name them when you need to ask them for support. Since COVID came about, this is a huge area that got affected. And so it's very important now to begin to reach out and renew this support system. There are many more opportunities to socialize now, and it's the perfect weather to get outside for a barbecue and a picnic. So by now you understand how seemingly unrelated factors like your relationships and your work life might affect your ability to improve your overall health. Kind of like the social bone is connected to the mental bone, is connected to the physical bone, and so on. So what do we have here at the Wellness Center that can improve all of those areas at once, at every visit? So the Myslowski is a safe, secure, clean facility, which is environmental, with a full fitness area, including weightlifting equipment and machines, cardio equipment, free space, walking, running lanes that circle the whole upstairs, which is physical. We also have a full lap-size pool, a hot tub, a sauna, and steam room that we can hopefully be able to start using again soon with the restrictions, and which is emotional. a zero entry kid pool, a therapy pool that's open to the public when not being used by Tri-County, along with 2 racquetball courts, a full gym, and a fitness on demand room where you can do your own workout videos. Our facility here has certain staffed hours and specific open pool hours. So you can't use it 24/7, but you can buy 24/7 access so that you can get your workout done upstairs at any time that's convenient for you. And the best part about this facility, and I'm probably a lot biased on this, it would have to be classes, which is relational, especially the ones with me. I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I teach 2 classes. At 8 a.m. I have body strength class, and you'll get a good sweat on with that. And then at 9 a.m. we have adaptive body strength, which allows us to use a chair to be able to work the muscles, which is mental whenever you make a plan for that. Even better is you get to bring your whole family to the Myslowski for a day of fun, meet up a friend here daily to keep you accountable, or it can be a place to meet some new friends, which is existential. Whether you choose to utilize this facility, everyone here is very welcoming, and we will help you find what you need to improve in any of those domains. And so if you need any more information about just this facility in particular, or me and what I like to do, which a lot of people say I torture people, but I try and go a little easy on them. You can go to wadinawellness.com or to my website of Make Fitness Fun For You, the number 4, funforyou.com. So thank you for sharing this time with me today, and I hope I get to see you soon. So you can do
Nicole-
questions. I was like, I can't really talk for a half an hour unless I have a whole bunch of stories.
Nicole, there are a number of questions in the chat. Can you access that?
I don't know. Oh, there we go. My last name, I'm Nicole Pomeranke, and my husband and I live out in Miltona. I started here when we lived in Deer Creek, so I still work here in Wadena, and then I also added another studio in January to Miltona. And there are elevators. There is an elevator that will bring you up to the upstairs. Yep. And I think that was all the question. So far as I can see, I think that was all the questions.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. This
and
was
you- and
really
you have-
interesting.
You have meeting rooms and things there and a full gym too, don't you?
Yep. I'm in one of the meeting rooms right now, which can, I think, seat up to about 50 people. And then we have like a fitness on demand room that can be set up for meetings as well.
And what are your mask requirements right now?
Now since he got rid of the mask requirements, it's all if you want to wear a mask, you are more than welcome to keep wearing a mask. Otherwise, it's not mandated to wear one while you're working out.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Sharon said she had another question for you.
Sure. Hi, Sharon.
Let's see if we can find it. Mm-mm.
She doesn't say I don't see chat anymore.
Sharon, you want to put your question in again? We missed
And
that.
if I lose you, because my power is getting low on this, I will re-log in on my other device.
One new message, it says. The fire department training.
Oh, yes, I did do that. Thank you. I trained with the Miltona Fire Department. I ran them through an Ignite the Fire boot camp for 6 weeks. And it was really, really, really fun. And so I'm hoping to kind of gather some of the other fire departments into doing that. I'm actually doing a certification for tactical fitness instructor that will help me train the police, EMT, and firefighters a little more efficiently than just doing personal training. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. Yeah,
Have a great day. Appreciate
you
it.
as well. Thank you.
Miss Verna, where would you like to go next? We can,
Well, we're back to, I saw one of the questions on the chat was, how do you link to ARP? And I think if you wanted to Google ARP, you could find the information on a membership. Facebook has been running a membership drive for ARP for a reduced rate. I'm not sure it's legitimate. Is that an amazing thing? One would actually question that. But it is $9 and I believe it is normally 12 or 14. but I
oh,
think-
dang, I signed up for the $12 one. I could have saved $3.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd mention that because I just got that recently. And I think it's maybe because we've been having this go across my feed on Facebook about having ARP being a speaker. So they tend to have an idea what we're doing. I think what we could do is I'd like to just say another thank you. A thank you to AJ Peters. We're actually positioned at his office so that we're working from his office in Long Prairie, and he does computer repair and training and has been really facilitating a lot of nonprofits. So this could be beneficial to many people in our area. And then I think I would like to take a few minutes to thank our committee members. Our committee members are Christine Hosheisel, and she's from the Morrison County area with Horizon Health. Alicia Truax, who's working with Lutheran Social Service and respite care and does a lot of training particularly in respite care. Teresa Sorensen, our Todd County Veteran Service Officer. Sheila Staub with RSVP with Mojave Ottawa. Rachel Zeta with CMCOA. Of course, Jody Freeholz London with Wellness in the Woods. And Sharon Notch with UCare. They've been a tremendous committee to work with, put a lot of time in. We've been doing so many things virtually. And we've done a lot of things virtually as we've progressed over the years. Many years ago, we used to meet for hours every month to plan this event. And now we do we actually do it all virtually. And then what we do is we just kind of plan the next year's session right away within a few weeks of the time that we do this presentation, because it's fresh in our mind. And by that time, we have some really good ideas that maybe have been provided by people who are part of our audience. So I would invite you, if there's something that you think you would like to have presented in next year's conference, to just enter that in the chat. So I think then we could go and have a little music again and possibly start doing some vendor things. Jody?
we can do that. Let me bring up some more, I have some music. So do you want me to put some music on right now?
I think that would really be a good idea.
All right, I can absolutely do that.
Yep.
How about
A
a
little
little
break.
bit of something from let me see. How about the Staples men's choir?
Programs LP.
Okay. Nope, that's a spring song. That's this one. That's this one.
The Staples Men's Chorus
Here
met
we
the
go.
challenge of COVID.
I
and
found it.
They're recording in the shed.
They are. I found it.
Good. Thank you, Jody.
And I want to make sure, yep, everybody can hear it. Oh man, now they said they have trouble playing that video. Okay, plan B. We always have a plan B.
Plan Bs are good.
I live on plan Bs.
Hi there. Wanted to share with you a little bit of music today. I'm Dan Schaefer. I do get to play the New Year's Eve concert with the Long Prairie Chamber Orchestra, and I help with the board of directors with that organization. Kind of motivated today because about a week ago, we were unable to reschedule our spring concert that was canceled at the end of March. I think you know that story. So this piece I'll share is Beret by W.H. Squire. I picked it up in the 8th grade, maybe 9th grade as a tryout piece for a regional orchestra. So it's got all sorts of different colors of music to it. It's kind of fun. Thanks for
So here I am again with Eric Graff, my son. Eric has played a number of solos with Long Prairie Chamber Orchestra from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And he was to play a year ago in March, or in April, I guess.
Something, yeah.
I guess it was late March. Well, maybe I don't know. Anyway, and then the coronavirus happened and everything got shut down for a while. But we're going to do a couple pieces here. A spring song by Frank Bridge, and who was a British composer, 1870s to 1960, somewhere in there. And then, what's the other guy? William Henry Styles?
Squire.
Squire, thank you, William Henry Squire. And he was a cellist and a teacher, really. And his legacy is a lot of
cello pieces for students.
Cello pieces for students. And so the other piece that we're going to do is
the Dance Rustique, or Rustic Dance.
Rustic
if you translate
Dance.
it. Yeah.
All right, here we are, Spring Song and Danse Rustique.
I think I found something new from the Staples Area Men's Choir, so hang tight just a second.
Real Men Sing started out as the men's chorus was looking for a way to outreach, to try and get new members into the chorus. And I just felt that maybe we should start with the young people. So we were trying to figure out how to do that. So I came up with the idea of, well, let's have a workshop for young men. And I brought that idea up in a board meeting. And I remember the look that Stan Carlson gave me. It was the dirtiest look. It's like, do you realize how much work that will be? But the board bought into the idea and the chorus bought into the idea. And that's how Real Men Sing got started. It was just a simple idea on how to reach out to other people in the community. Johnny Smoker, can you sing? Can you play? I can play on my triangle. Ding, 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 this is my triangle. Ding, 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 this is my flute. Rub-a-dub-a-dub, this is my drum. Rub-a-dub-a-dub, my ding, 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 this is my triangle. Once we decided that we were going to have the Real Men Sing Festival. Of course, it takes a lot of work, and there was a lot of grant writing and legwork to do. And I know that I spent a crazy number of hours working with other people in the chorus. Don Hoffman and I would email each other at 2 a.m. in the morning, just trying to brainstorm to how are we going to do this? How are we going to put this idea together? How are we going to raise money? And so with the grant writing and the legwork that we did, it all came together. I worked at getting the schools to come to the Real Men Sing, and the directors bought into it. And here we are today. We've got over 300 men on the risers on this, our 10th Real Men Sing. Our goal in Real Men Sing was to try to get young men from the small schools in our surrounding area that don't have the opportunity to sing in a school that has the programs that the larger cities do. And so it's helped that we've been able to pull those small schools in, but it's grown. And even the schools that haven't bought into the idea initially, now we're seeing in our later years, we're seeing more of those schools coming, and we're hearing about it, and we're getting schools that are from 100 miles away and even farther, but yet they're small schools that believe in the fact that Real Men Sing, and they want to teach their young men that that's a true statement.
Something I'm sure that you will enjoy this evening. This is also, being the 10th, but it's also the largest registration we've had. As of Wednesday, it was 322 young men, people registered for this chorus festival.
Real Men Sing is one of the rare festivals that gives everybody the opportunity to come together for a day of singing, sharing the love of music, and also in this particular case to have singers of all ages come together and share their enthusiasm and love for singing. It's a great time, a social time as well, as an opportunity to dig a little bit more into the music and give everybody the opportunity to spend more time than what we usually possibly might have to explore what all can be expressed through music.
Why do I think Real Men Sing is important? It's important for us as older singers to let younger singers know that they have a lifetime of singing awaiting them, a lifetime of experiences with other men singing beautiful music and enjoying each other's fellowship. Great experience. Young men from maybe 14 years old to old guys who are maybe even in their 80s, all coming together to sing and enjoy each other's company. That's Real Men Sing. It's an exciting day.
So proud of it.
Thank you, Steve, for inviting me. And thank you all for sharing your wonderful talents and your love for music with us this day. And thank you for coming and giving us the opportunity to share this enjoyment of music with all of you.
If you have not seen this concert, you are so wrong.
That was particularly meaningful for me because my son was part of Real Men Sing. And I don't know about the rest of you, but when I hear a men's choir, there's just something that touches me from the top of my head on down. Would you like to hear another one from the Staples Choir?
Jody, are you able to pull up the one from the shed at all, or was that something that they wouldn't share to your
I could not get it through Facebook. They wouldn't let me share it.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, that's a really great one. But I do have another one from the Staples area's men's choir. If you would like me to bring that one up.
You may as well do that. I think we have a bit of time here.
All right, let's do it.
as you know, this could be trouble around these parts. So I was thrilled to be asked to conduct the men's chorus as well. A lot of really good friends of mine up there, and a group that's meant a lot to me over the years. So we selected one of my favorite men's chorus pieces ever written. This is Down in the Valley.
Verna, I'd like to pull up our screen again with all of our sponsors because I think there's a few that we have missed. And I want to make sure that everybody who has helped us out is absolutely going to be part of today. So we want to give them all the benefit and the recognition that they well deserve. So llama was told was spelled incorrectly, that it's not llama like llama. So the correct spelling is Somebody might have to help me here.
It's LAMA.
Okay. This is the llama that's this would be the llama that's the animal, right?
Right, now we needed to add one more A, not a dash. Nope, a big A, there you go.
And then Todd County Veteran Services.
Correct.
I'm gonna stretch that out just a little bit, okay? And who else did we, Mojave?
Mojave, Iowa. Isn't, yeah,
Okay,
no, OTWAH.
Isn't it 2 Ts?
I'm not sure if I'm even got that right, to be honest. Yep, it is OTWA, all capital letters.
all right. Well, I might have to fix that. And I'll come back and fix that. And then we had some other ones we were missing, right? Lutheran Social.
Yes, we did, and they were in the chat, and I didn't write them down. I'm sorry.
So if it's okay with you, while we're gonna grab a bit of lunch, how about if I bring up those videos with all of our vendors to share? Does that work for you?
That would be a wonderful option.
All right, let's do that. And people can grab something to eat and drink and grab a sandwich if they want to, or whatever works for them. And I will bring up those vendors to share.
Lakes Area Memory Awareness Advocates, or LAMA, is a nonprofit organization based in the Brainerd Lakes region. Our mission is to offer education, support, and awareness of dementia and other cognitive-related issues. Since our founding in 2010, LAMA has been a leader in central Minnesota in education and learning opportunities specific to memory loss and related disorders. LAMA was one of the first organizations to receive an Act on Alzheimer's grant in 2015, and Brainerd Baxter is recognized as a dementia-friendly community. LAMA works closely with the Alzheimer's Association to offer their curriculum and area support groups, and is involved in advocacy and the annual rally at the Capitol. For many years, LAMA has offered an educational forum for both professionals and caregivers in the area. The 2020 conference was postponed, but will take place on October 19, 2021. This is a free educational opportunity that will offer both an in-person option and a virtual option. The keynote speaker will be Aaron Bonito, who will present "I Already Told You That, Don't You Remember?" and other powerful interventions and insight into working with and caring for people with memory loss. Registration will open this summer. Please watch our Facebook page or visit memoryadvocates.org for updates. For additional information, please contact LAMA Chair Amanda Mithun at amandamithun@lakewoodhealthsystems.com. North Central Medical Supply and Equipment is a local family-owned business that is focused on caring for you and your loved ones. Since 1999, we have served our community by helping people maintain their independence, enabling them to stay in their homes longer, and giving families a feeling of security for their loved ones. Our goal is to provide prompt service, compassionate care, great client education, strong referral support, and reasonable prices. Our daily focus on compassionate care, quality equipment, extensive product line, and strong community involvement is the foundation of our business. Our well-trained representatives make the difference in your level of care by treating you like part of the family. We offer a variety of services to ensure that all our customers' home health needs are met, from CPAP and oxygen equipment to complex rehab technology and home health supplies. We're here to help. If you're not sure what you need, contact our team. Call us or visit our website, ncmedicalsupply.com. Aging is something we start to think about as we find things more challenging. Some people want to stay in their home. Others want to move to get services or other conveniences, including social support. Still others have more difficult challenges but want to remain at home with help from a caregiver. The Senior Linkage Line can help. We can connect you with transportation, house cleaning, food, housing, support programs, and prescription drugs. The Senior Linkage Line can help with the transition home after a hospital or nursing home stay. If you are ready for Medicare, we offer a free 2-hour Medicare 101 class, and we can even help you with forms and paperwork. There are options available to help you remain in your home as you age. Call the experts at the Senior Linkage Line for free, objective, and comprehensive counseling by trained professionals. Call 1-800-333-2433. The Todd County Council on Aging, or TCAA, was established in 1976 as a nonprofit to provide education and support for seniors in all of the senior centers in Todd County. Monthly meetings are held with informative topics, helping our citizens live involved and purposeful lives. We are involved in designing services such as bundled meals, one of only 2 in the state of Minnesota to serve persons living outside city limits. The need to provide a growing number of nutritious meals resulted in many volunteers becoming involved in designing and fundraising to build the Hilltop Regional Kitchen, which now can serve frozen meals statewide. Treasured Treats volunteers bake Grandma's favorite cookies to provide funds for meal delivery in Todd County. TCAA educates and trains volunteers to utilize their skills to enhance the lives of our seniors through services such as foster grandparents, senior companions, RSVP, and transportation drivers. We are currently working to educate the public about the need for affordable housing for seniors, which will create workforce housing as our seniors move to a safer home. For more information, call Verna at 320-815-4301.
Call Verna. She knows something about everything. She's the most resourceful human being I know.
The Maslowski Wellness and Research Center in Wadena has something for everyone. The Maz has a lap pool, zero-entry recreational pool, and fun water features, including a 90-foot water slide. Enjoy the sauna and steam room, whirlpool, warm water therapy pool, racquetball courts, fitness center, walking track, and multi-purpose gym. The Maz offers programming for all ages and abilities, including Red Cross swim classes, fitness classes, and winter leagues. There are many membership options, including a Try-It program. You can hold your next meeting, celebration, or event at the Maz. We can host events for up to 400 people. For more information, call or visit our website, wadinawellness.com. Wellness in the Woods is a nonprofit mental health consumer-run organization that provides programs, activities, advocacy, education, and expanding statewide peer networks. Wellness in the Woods is dedicated to improving access to mental health care for all residents of Minnesota, with a focus on reaching underserved communities. Trained peer specialists provide warm line services from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. each day. In addition, Wellness in the Woods offers peer support during the day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and callers can join the virtual peer support network via Zoom or phone. Our mission is to be the voice of individuals with a lived mental health experience and to fortify opportunities that positively impact and support communities and support systems. For more information, go to mnwitw.org.
I don't know about you, Verna, but I could certainly go with some more of that virtual springtime music. How does that work for you?
I suggest we go to 12:30 when our next speaker is supposed to be on. Just in
Wonderful.
case there was somebody that wanted to join just because of the purposeful living that Bob is going to define, we wouldn't want to lose somebody.
Absolutely. So I'm going to just bring our virtual spring back on.
Pieces. Now, your son Nate plays trumpet and your other son Caleb plays trombone. Are there other musicians in your family besides you?
Yes, my daughter Elizabeth plays the flute in band, hasn't yet opted to join orchestra, we'll see. And I have a 5th grader who's impatiently hoping that they start the 5th graders in band. He wants to play percussion. We'll see how that.
What is your musical life like during the week, during the weekends? Is there a church job involved? Is there
I play at church from time to time and accompany a couple of choirs when they're going. Summer one, the Forever Young out of Melrose. I usually accompany them.
And you mentioned you're familiar with this piano. You rehearse here for one of your groups that you're...
The Great Eagle Community Choir practices here sometimes.
Okay, great. Angela Bitz. We have Gary Taylor playing the French horn today. Sometimes we see him playing trumpet in the Long Prairie Chamber Orchestra and French horn and maybe another instrument or two.
Maybe, yeah.
Sure. We're going to do Adagio and Presto by Telemann. And Gary, you were doing some research on Telemann and you found out?
Yeah, Telemann was a contemporary of Johann Sebastian Bach, although he was more famous at that time than Bach because he was a self-promoter and was probably one of the first composers to arrange subscription concerts. So people would subscribe to his series and they would do, and so that was way back in those days.
Sure. Mid-1700s.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, Adagio and Presto.
Hello, my name's Hagen. I've played with the Long Prairie Chamber Orchestra for about 5 years, and normally John would be here. Today he's out, so I'm on a solo mission, and I have a solo to perform for you. I'll throw some different things in, like different time signatures and different techniques. Also, watch for this. That's called a flam. It's when one drumstick is normally lower than the other one, so that. They almost hit at the same time, but not quite. It's like a grace note if you're not playing drums. But I'll play a few of those, and I'll mix up the time signatures, big and small. So it's a solo from me.
For today, and this is Bob Kohler, and he is a professional entrepreneur who is now graduated into retirement. He started his first company at 19 and has started 3 additional companies before he reached retirement age. Lives in Bloomington with his wife and has raised 3 children there. And when he retired, he found out that things weren't just working out the way he planned. And so he decided to redesign retirement, and he's going to share information on how to live a purposeful retirement. Take it away, Bob.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, I was an entrepreneur, which at the ripe old age of 19, I always assumed described somebody who couldn't get a job. So I had to figure out how to make one for myself, actually. And so that's how I kind of got into that sort of thing. And it was a great run. It was a great run right up until the last company I started. It was a small little technology company, and I knew almost nothing about technology, which created a very stressful environment. And finally, one day, after so much stress in my life, I just came in the house after work, talked to my wife, and said, I'm done. I just can't do this anymore. Now, on the best ways of retiring, this was probably right near the bottom because it was under duress. Wasn't my idea. I had no plan. But I really wasn't worried about it because, like most people who look at retirement, I mean, it's retirement. How hard can that be, right? It's like walking into the Garden of Eden. And while, I might be talking about retirement, the truth is this could be about a transition to a new career, a transition, perhaps sadly to losing a spouse or a good friend, or suddenly finding yourself no longer being able to do some of the things you really like to do. Transitions can be difficult, and maintaining purpose through those transitions can sometimes be challenging. So it can be a little uncomfortable in that transition period, maybe just a little bit like this, right? It can be tough. Oops, wait a minute. You can't, I am so sorry. You can't, I didn't share my screen. Let me start this over again. I am so sorry. Do I have the ability to screen share?
You should have, you are a co-host.
All right. There we go. I am so sorry. This is where I was. It can be really difficult when you're trying to transition through these challenging parts in life. And for some, experiencing a life transition can be weeks in the hallway, and for some it can be years. It can be really tough. In my case, that challenge after I decided to retire got a little bumpy. After several months of a lot of fun, because it is a lot of fun, and it was for me initially, it started to lose some of its luster. I mean, I was golfing a lot and fishing and riding my bike, and I don't know, doing it day after day after day, just, it was a little bit like eating too much of my favorite candy. And it got very confusing, and I got a little sad after a while, and quite frankly, went down a bit of a hole. And I knew I had to get myself out of that little dark place. So being a natural obsessive compulsive, I spent the next 2.5 years deeply, intensely studying transitions, finding purpose, sort of reclaiming identity, all these changes in life and how to adapt to them. And at the end of that, I gained quite a lot of quite a lot of understanding about life as we age. I discovered that we really don't talk very often about these transition periods in our life. They tend to be a little bit taboo in some cases, particularly men. We're not very good at that sort of thing. And I also discovered that the transitions can sometimes create a difficult path back to purpose. And life can be improved by taking ownership of 4 key elements in our life, all of which add to that sense of value in our lives. Now, some of these have already been touched on. I want to approach it from a slightly different angle, because these 4 key elements, while they're not going to come as any surprise, the why of it might. And I know that these 4 elements can have a positive, meaningful impact on our life for the rest of our life. So let's look at them. Number 1, no surprise, we talked about this earlier, exercise. Exercise doesn't have to mean going to the gym. If you're someone for whom exercise hasn't been a part of their life, Google exercise for someone my age who hates to exercise. And I guarantee all sorts of ideas will come up. Better yet, invite a friend over, you get to have coffee afterwards. Now it's a social event. It's a lot more fun. But at the end of the day, it's about movement. Really, exercise doesn't even have to be the focus. I think Nicole touched on this. If you like bird watching, if you like being out in nature, you're moving, it's exercise, right? And the point is, if you just keep moving in this phase of life, if you just keep moving physically, if you keep moving intellectually, emotionally, keep feeding curiosity, things will happen that you cannot possibly imagine. And I will guarantee that. It's the only thing I'll guarantee, but I will guarantee that. It's interesting because this is old information, but CDC issued a report years ago that said more than 50% of our potential for lifelong health is determined by our personal behaviors. And at the age of 65, our genes play less of a role than our health choices and how we take care of ourselves in the future. Now, we all know that exercise is important for the heart and the lungs and the musculature. but you may not be aware that it's absolutely critical for brain health as well. When the body moves and exercises, it burns carbs for fuel, and the brain uses some of that fuel to build neurotransmitters, which is a fancy word for the chemicals that relay messages through the nervous system and throughout the body. Absolutely critical for whole body health. Exercise also supports the hippocampus, which is the center for memory in the brain. Exercise impacts areas of executive function like attention, planning, and problem-solving skills. Exercise is really important for the whole body and mind. Great value in that. That was number one. Number two, again, no surprise, food. I'm not going to tell you what you should or should not eat, but what I will say is that there is great value in understanding how food impacts your body, your mind, your mood, and your whole health well-being. There's a handout that I believe was given to everybody ahead of time. And in there, I put some suggested reading, just places you can start. You might find them really fascinating because the why about food is the bigger story, quite frankly. The microbiome, or I think the technical word is good bugs, that make up the wall of the gut have a very integrative relationship with the brain. Literally hundreds of neurochemicals. The chemicals that relay messages through the nervous system are produced in the gut, and they regulate physiological processes as well as mental processes like learning, memory, and mood. According to the National Institute of Health, an unhealthy gut will impact diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, the immune system, some forms of cancer, autism, type 2 diabetes, Crohn's disease. The list actually goes on. But let's bring this down to a real life story. My wife is a purebred Irish farm girl from South Central Minnesota. And she, like her mother before her and her many, many sisters, unfortunately have osteoporosis. Now, in my wife's case, that progressed sometime back to osteoarthritis, which is a particularly painful form of arthritis for which there's no cure. It's very hard to see someone you love go through that kind of discomfort in their life. Now, my wife worked at a hospital at that time. She had access to all these great referrals, which she took advantage of and saw all the docs, took all the tests, and at the end of it all, left with ibuprofen in one hand and a prescription for pain pills in the other, because now her illness and her pain was chronic. Every day she woke up with pain in her body. Now, this is where the tough farm girl comes in. Irish had a lot to do with it too. She didn't want to give up. She wanted to find some way that she could take some kind of ownership of this pain that she was experiencing. And she started reading a lot. In fact, one of the books that I've recommended, actually. And in it, she discovered there are certain kinds of food that encourage inflammation in the body. Now, she wanted to understand this more, so she sought out some kind of professional help. And she was introduced to a naturopath. Now, please understand, I am not advocating anybody see any type of health professional or do anything in particular. I'm just sharing my wife's story. Now, in my wife's case, this woman that she worked with focused on balancing the microbiome in the gut. And food impacts all of that. In my wife's case, she took out dairy, gluten, and sugar. Maybe sounds traumatic. She dragged me along with it, you should know. It wasn't as bad as you might think. And quite frankly, she had a lot of motivation. Chronic pain is a pretty big motivator to try and change something in your life. Now, I would say after 30 days, my wife always laughs at me and says, "Oh, you exaggerate so badly. It was at least 90 days. Okay, 90 days. 90 days after my wife changed her diet, her chronic pain that she woke up with every day was gone. Not just better, it was gone. For her, it was like being reborn, like giving a second chance of life. The point of the story is not to tell you what you should or shouldn't eat. but to understand the why of it. There is great, great power in knowledge. How you choose to use that knowledge is free choice. All right, that was number 2. What else is important? Beer. And relationships. We touched on this earlier as well with Nicole and Jody, I believe both did. Transitions of any kind are very difficult. Friendships and relationships are always important, but I think they're especially important as we go through various types of transitions in life. Having someone that you're close enough to, and I know that Nicole touched on this, and I just wanted to shout with joy that she did, and be vulnerable with. We men are especially kind of bad at that. But being vulnerable, if you're with somebody that is a trusting relationship, that allows themselves to be vulnerable with you in return, it's in that vulnerability that you find your deepest hopes and dreams and fears and ideas and values. It's a wonderful thing to have a good relationship. It also, the opposite, I should say, the opposite also has a negative impact. We understand that, but it impacts life expectancy, quality of life and aging. It increases the risk of mortality and negatively affects mental health, contributes to cognitive decline, risk of high blood pressure. I don't want to get too depressing. The list goes on quite a bit. So how do you avoid loneliness? Well, sometimes you got to be a little brave, right? Be brave and try new things. Network with family and friends. Networking doesn't just mean calling someone when you need them. It requires two-way sincerity and conversation to be effective. And through it all, just keep moving. Keep moving physically, keep moving intellectually, keep growing emotionally and feeding curiosity. And things will happen that you cannot imagine. And be brave. Try new things. Be brave. Okay, maybe not quite that brave. And the big one, finding something to live for. Said differently, finding purpose. There's lots of good reasons to want to have purpose in your life. There's substantial research and growing that indicates that people who have purpose live substantially longer than people who do not. Perhaps more importantly, they live healthier and happier lives. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. There's actually a program that AARP started, and it runs on its own now, called Experience Corps. And Experience Corps, by every measure, has been a huge success. It actually started in St. Paul. Now it's national. It's in dozens of cities around the country and impacts tens of thousands of students every year. People like us, a lot of retired folks, older folks, will donate time to be mentors to at-risk elementary school kids in reading literacy to help them learn how to read. Been a huge success. Now, interestingly, researchers at Washington University decided to do a research study and see if it had any impact on the mentors. What an interesting study. And they found that when compared with older adults of a similar age, demographic, even volunteer history to some degree, Experience Corps tutors reported improvements in mental health and physical functioning, including mobility, stamina, and flexibility, and maintained overall health longer. In addition, Experience Corps members reported more physical activity, larger social networks, and higher self-esteem as a result of their participation. I couldn't believe it. I had to go and prove this to myself. So I went and met with the executive director of the program in St. Paul and said, is this for real? And she said, yeah, it's been written up in medical journals. And I said, how can something as simple as helping young kids read accomplish all these things for the people helping? And she said, you'd have to be here for a while to really experience it. But people come in, and rightfully so, thinking, gosh, I've got some time on my hands. I can give back a little bit and help some young kids learn how to read. I think I can handle a second grade reader. It's, you know, what the heck, I'm going to do my part. And you work with them for a while and they struggle to say the words, and then they get better, and then pretty soon they're reading pretty well. And then all of a sudden the light goes on because they're comprehending. And all of a sudden you realize you've just opened up the world to a child who may or may not see very much of it. They can go anywhere, be anybody through reading a book. And the look that only a child can give of pure gratitude fills you up in such a way, it's like getting hit by a velvet hammer. It humbles you. It just gives you a sense of value. Like, my gosh, I had no idea I had this kind of impact on doing such a simple task. And it's true, when you get that feeling, that sense of purpose, you can't help but walk a little quicker, maybe stand a little taller, maybe have a little bit more courage to join an organization you've been thinking about, but just haven't quite tipped the scale to do yet. Purpose is a wonderful thing. So what is purpose? There's lots of definitions out there. I kind of like this one. It's the process of discovery, of finding out who we are and what we're supposed to be doing with ourselves. It's a way that steps out of measuring success only by prestige, personal wealth, and power, and its freedom of living beyond ego and status. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning. It adds excitement to your life, and all these things enhance your physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being. Purpose comes in all different forms. For some, it might be gardening or volunteering or starting a new business. But the point is, you get to be who you choose to be because it brings you joy. And in my opinion, one of the best paths to this is understanding your gifts and using them. Another fun little story, my friend of mine and his wife came over to our house for dinner. This is actually a couple years back now. And he is a surgeon. And he told me over dinner that a colleague of his, a very gifted surgeon, had just announced he was going to retire. And now my friend and all of his associates at work were terrified this guy was going to go crazy, because what would he do that would give him as much sense of purpose as what he could do with his hands in surgery? And I like this part of the story. He surprised everybody by telling them that he always thought that he would make a great chauffeur. This gifted, prestigious surgeon who could have been all caught up in the trappings of what that means and who that person should be, just put all that aside and said, what would bring me joy? What would be really fun to do? He knew that he had a gift of being able to talk to anybody, and he had this intense curiosity to learn. And I asked my friend sometime later, did he actually do that? And he said, yes, he does it when he wants to. He said, I provide a great service. It's a lot of fun. And I get to meet people from all over the world and have these amazing conversations. There was a great author and theologian who said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world really needs is people who have come alive. How do you get there? Sometimes it takes a little self-analysis, a little look in the mirror. But as I said earlier, one of the best paths, I believe, is understanding what your gifts are. And I learned this by reading Richard Leider's book, The Power of Purpose. It's suggested reading in your handout material. Richard Leider's been rated one of the best, actually 10 best executive coaches in the world. In his book, The Power of Purpose, there was one paragraph that just jumped off the page at me, and it said, our upbringing has convinced many of us that anything requiring hard work is valuable, and anything that comes easily and doesn't require hard work is less valuable. About our gifts, we often think, well, that came easy, so it's got to be easy for everybody. We underestimate their value. And yet, to be really fulfilled in life, truly fulfilled, we have to understand that these gifts are our most powerful talents of all. And using them helps us unlock and express the joy in our life. How do you do that? Well, there's a number of different personality tests, psychological tests. I used one called Strength Finder at strengthfinder.com. In fact, on the handout material, there's a link that'll take you directly to the page that I think it's still $19.95. It'll ask you a series of questions, and it'll tell you your top 5 strengths. More importantly, it'll tell you how you incorporate them into your life. Now, I won't say it was a giant aha moment, because when I laid them out in front of me, I recognized them as things that I could do. I just never thought of them as gifts because they came easy. I thought they came easy for everybody. But understanding what those gifts are helped me to find a path on where I wanted to go. As we age, our priorities change, our identity and interests will evolve. And I think it's really important that we mentally prepare for this journey that we're on, because, and I don't understand why, but in our culture, for some, I think it's an old paradigm that we're hanging on to that no longer applies to us, because sometimes words like old and growing old don't always conjure up a lot of positive images. And why? Why? It's simply another stage of life, like childhood, adolescence, adulthood. In fact, I would argue that this time of life offers us opportunity for growth and exploration that previous times in life never did. We can explore to our heart's content, right? And we don't have to take giant steps and rush the process. The fun should be in the journey. And if you just keep moving, I guarantee things will happen you cannot imagine. Try new things. If it doesn't feel right, that's fine. You can move on. That sounds easy, but in our culture, we are often taught you must finish something you start. We don't have to do that. Do it because it brings you joy. If it's not a good fit, move on to something else. No one knows how much time we have left on this earth. But why put an age limit on the choices that you make? It's not about reaching the end goal. It's about enjoying the process along the way. Try something new because it sounds like fun. Be curious. Embrace change. We get a bit stuck in our ways sometimes as we age, but I would ask, does this doing the same things create a sense of safety and knowing what's next? Or does it build a fence around our lives and our ability to grow and explore? Take a class through your local community ed, or you may know you can go to any higher state-run institution of learning after the age of 62 for free. Now, I've also included a list of all of those state-run higher institutions of learning, and there are several in the northern part of the state. And you can go for free and take a class just because it might be fun. And it's free. Free means you're auditing, students have first crack, but it's worth looking into. And just keep moving. When I was at my most challenged transition point, things were kind of dark. I was feeling pretty weak, didn't have a lot of confidence, a little bit insecure. I just desperately needed to get out of this bad place I was in. And I grabbed at the first thing that came in front of me, which turned out to be a weekend retreat up the North Shore at Wolf Ridge, which is an environmental camp for middle schoolers, and adults use it on weekends for retreats. Now, I thought this was a business group, and that was my background. The truth is, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just desperate to change something. Turns out it was networking, meeting new people, getting outside, listening to some great speakers, but I was feeling pretty weak and vulnerable. And the first full day, I walked into this room where a speaker was going to begin in about 5 minutes, and using all the courage and self-confidence I had left in me, I sat down next to a total stranger and I said, "Hi, I'm Bob." That was it. That's all I had. Now go figure, in the whole universe of people to meet, I sit down next to somebody who, as it turns out, shared a passion that was growing in me around understanding aging, transitions, how to reclaim perhaps purpose and identity. And after the speaker was done, we went and got coffee and we talked like old friends for an hour, and we promised to get together and meet when we got back into the city. And for the next 3 years, Dave Carey and I met at what became our favorite coffee shop. And through that time and through trial and error, we realized we were both going through a transition. We both needed to work through some things. And over it, we began talking more and digging deeper. And soon we allowed each other to be vulnerable and get down to the real meat and heart of what our hopes and dreams and fears and ideas were. And those ideas went through all sorts of evolutions. And I'm absolutely convinced it's because I sat down next to a total stranger. I used the last ounce of courage I had to engage with him and talk with him. And we continued talking. And through that process, I allowed myself to open and be more vulnerable and explore and evolve all my ideas. And it's the only reason that I'm here today. Because if you just keep moving, things will happen you cannot possibly imagine or expect. It can be really fun. So we're winding down. I would ask, from what I've talked about from the day, what did you learn? I'd like to encourage people to take 10 minutes and a pen and a piece of paper and just ask, what did I learn today? Maybe there's something in there worth exploring. Maybe it's understanding what food does to the body. Maybe I need to get outside more. How can you share? We don't talk about these things very much as a society. Hopefully it's getting better, but it's part of my passion and mission in life to share this message with as many people as possible. And now you have some of this information. How can you share this with your friends who may be going through a transition? And what will you do? Because knowledge is power, but only action can change your life. I thank you very much for having me here today. This has been a really nice conference, and I'm really proud to have been a part of it. If there are people, organizations, church groups, whatever in your world that you think might find value in this message, I urge you to share my contact information with them, and I am very grateful to have been able to share it with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. We do have, I noticed that I was not able to send out those handouts ahead of time, Bob. So I'm not sure where they got lost in the mix, but if you could resend them to me, I will send them to the participants. Oh, Sharon has it. Okay, we're good. You're off the hook. It's somehow or another they got lost in the mix, but I'll be sure to send them. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
You bet. Are there any questions that you would like to address, or would you like to move on?
One of the things that I'm looking at, I wrote down the name of that book right away because my husband said, "Do you have a copy of that?" And I don't. And so what we like to do is, I was hoping it was on Audible, but it's not. But we can also get it as a listening book, so we can listen to it together. So that's on my list of to-dos. So thank you.
Good. Good.
The book. I didn't catch it. We'll get it.
What was the name of that book again?
Well, there are several books. One that I referenced was The Power of Purpose by Richard Leider, Leider.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There's some other great books in there too. There's a psychiatrist based in the Twin Cities who is kind of a rock star on the international stage, actually, about the gut to brain relationship. And Dr. Henry Emmons wrote a book on the chemistry of joy. pretty interesting on how food impacts our whole mood, how we view things, and health, of course. But and I see Sharon said she's going back to school. Look at that. Good for you. Way to go. You are never too old to learn. One of my good friends just got his PhD at age 79, just because he wanted to. Brilliant guy. All right, the rest I think are pretty much about handouts. I'm glad you like the brave photo. It's hard to do. It's hard to be brave sometimes, especially when you're feeling a little lost, but it helps. Okay, yes.
This is Sharon. One of the questions I had is, how do we help someone tap into their potential that they may not even realize that they have? What can we do to encourage them to take a risk and try something that's a gift that we recognize in them that they don't recognize in themselves? Does that make sense?
Yes, no, it absolutely does. And that's actually one of the things I encourage people to do in my longer interactive workshops, is that little Strength Finder test is helpful for you to identify some gifts. And there's other tests like that as well. But the other way is to ask your friends, what do you think I'm good at? Because we truly do just take them for granted because they come easy. It's a very interesting thing. But once somebody points them out to you, you maybe can help guide them in where those kinds of skills could be used and give them ideas. Maybe it's a church group, maybe it's a volunteer activity in the community. Who knows? Maybe they're craftsmen and they do this really cool carving, and maybe they should do an art fair and just try one and see what it's like. But having input from friends who know a person like in that situation can be really helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things, and I also do a lot of trainings, a lot of empowerment type trainings. And for me, when I went through my mental health experience, I had to kind of sit back in my chair and create a personal mission statement. Okay, what does this do to change, how my life is going to be from here on out with these new experiences? And that was really helpful for me, just having that as a guide. And there were people who, like you mentioned, gave me input on, you're really good at this. You should look at, maybe you would think about this. So that's a great opportunity. I even take, if I'm applying for a position or something and people write me a letter of reference, I just hang on to that, put it in my glove compartment or something to help me remember there's good things about me.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very healthy thing to do. I have a letter that an old business partner of mine wrote to me years ago. The man was a brilliant writer. And if you got a letter from him, you hung on to it forever. And every once in a while, I pull it out and I just kind of glow all over, and it makes my whole day. So I'm with you on that. Well, this has been a really wonderful conference. I think I've watched most all of it today. And I just want to say again that I was really honored to be a part of it. I hope there was some value in here for you on the message, and I hope you'll share it with others. So I'm going to sign off unless there's other questions. And again, thank you.